Here's a short recap of the Pong miniseries finale. First, we duplicated level 1, and then we renamed that to level 2. Then inside the level blueprint, we updated the event begin play code to remove all instances of possess for player 2. The reason we're doing this is because level 1 is going to be player 1 versus player 2, which needs the possess functions, but in level 2, this is going to be player 1 versus the AI, so we don't need to worry about player 2. From there, we then duplicated the BP_player and we renamed it to BP_enemy. We deleted all the existing code and we made one slight adjustment in the component tree. We added a trigger box, but we'll get to that in a second. Inside the event graph, the event tick pretty much drives the AI logic. It does a cast to the getActor_of class and it checks for the Pong ball, and then it runs an isValid check to make sure that the Pong ball has spawned, and if it has, it's going to update the paddle's position across the x-axis. The reason we're using the x-axis is because if you notice, the paddles up and down is what we're targeting, and then the lower left-hand corner you can see this is the red x-axis, so that's why we're looking there. The way we're moving is we're using a simple finterp2 node that takes a current position and then it moves towards a target position across some delta time, which we can pass in from the event tick. And then it does this across some interpolation speed. We can promote the interp speed to a variable called difficulty because the higher the number, the faster the paddle will interp to the location. So you can basically use this as your difficulty ramp. For the current and target position, obviously the current position is going to be the paddle's existing X position, and then the target, which is where we want to move to, is going to be the Pong ball's X position. So that makes pretty easy sense there. Then the last piece of code that we used is some attack code, allowing the enemy to basically slap the ball back randomly. It uses that trigger box that we set up in the viewport here. Basically, when the Pong ball intersects or overlaps there, it's going to call this event. This event's going to check that the overlapping actor is the Pong ball, and if it is, it's going to check a branch condition, and it's going to make sure that the paddle is not currently spinning, and then it's going to give it a random chance to spin, so it doesn't do it every single time, just kind of intermittently. The first action it does is it sets the isSpinning variable to true, so the enemy can't spin multiple times if it's already spinning, and then we create a timeline. The timeline simply is updating the paddle's relative rotation across the z-axis, and then when the timeline's finished, it'll set that isSpinning back to false. The timeline is pretty basic, just has 3 keys, one at 0, 0, the other one at 0.25 and then 20 degrees, and then the last key is at 0.75 at -720 degrees, so basically causing the paddle to spin 2 times. And then the last change we made was to the title screen. We had 3 buttons. We simply had to set up the player 1 button to actually open the level. So if we come to the event graph, we added the on-clicked button event to simply open level 2. And just like that, we've created a simple AI to round out our single player mode in this project. Hope you enjoyed the series.